In his farewell address this week, Joe Biden also warned of the threat of an oligarchy of tech billionaires creeping in to overtake American democracy.
Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence.
You just figured this one out, Joe? This has been a concrete threat since at least the first Obama administration, which solidified the kind of revolving door between Silicon Valley, the White House, and Capitol Hill that the military-industrial complex enjoys.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
There's nothing more American than pretending you do not see it when corporate power works for you. But the moment we're in right now has a bit of a different tenor. There's popular discontent with how the big tech overlords are running the show. The emperor has never had any clothes, but more and more people are seeing it. Let's start with TikTok. It seems the proposed ban on the app will go into effect on Sunday since the Supreme Court upheld the law this week. Influencers are dispersing onto other sites, trying to figure out what will be next. Meanwhile, Donald Trump will be welcoming all of our favorite tech overlords to his inaugural dais on Monday, including the CEO of TikTok. This performative garbage is a way for big tech to signal their willingness to be collaborators with this administration, which relies deeply on the misinformation spread on their platforms for its power. This all happens on the heels of Mark Zuckerberg going full chud, torching the fig leaf of decency that Meta had before, and ditching the cynical adoption of socially conscious policies while claiming that people quitting their platforms are the ones who are virtue signaling. No, Mark, I think it's you who claims that calling trans people mentally ill is somehow, quote, mainstream discourse in 2025, who are the real virtue signaler here. And the virtue is bootlicking. This is all to say nothing of the continuing enshittification of online content, thanks to the AI slop and algorithmic curation that has completely corrupted our information ecosystem. But what this is perhaps a big setup for a shift in how Americans are spending their time online. Many are posting about these shifts with reactive fear, blindly defending whichever platform has served their material or social needs the best. This form of cope is nothing more than an evolution of the manufactured consent Noam Chomsky warned us about decades ago, but for the social media era.
The major decisions over what happens in the society, decisions over investment and production and distribution and so on, are in the hands of a relatively concentrated network of major corporations and conglomerates and investment firms, and they're the ones who own the media, and they're the ones who have to be in a position to make the decisions.
On the other hand, I'm not ready to endorse just ditching en masse. The world has changed, and there's no going back to a time before social media. We've got to figure out how to grapple with this in rigorous ways. And one thing that we can do to be able to be rigorous about this is to be real about the emotional effect all of this has on us. We did a whole episode about grief on this show just a few weeks ago. I really recommend you go back and check it out. The fear and anxiety that you might be feeling about the shifting digital ground on which you stand and have perhaps become dependent on, I know that that's true for myself, is a normal response to change. Grief is, in part, the process of working through and accepting the emotions that come up when change is forced upon us against our will, so we might be better prepared to face the world as it is. So I think it's a good time to take a breath and step forward into the unknown of organizing towards liberation in this rapidly changing world. Let's add liberation from our dependence on tech platforms owned by oligarchs who currently control what we see, what we hear, and what we think about for our education, entertainment, and community building to the list of our highest aspirations.